Hello, friend. Welcome back to the show. And if you're new here, I'm so glad to have you. I'm Rebecca, and today we are diving into the know word. As I mentioned in our previous episode, I had an experience where I was supposed to be hiring this contractor, and he said all the right things, did all the right things, had the perfect resume, and everything looked fine. Like I had no logical reason not to hire him, but everything in my body was screaming, don't do this. And I pushed it aside thinking I was just living out of fear, and I went ahead and hired him anyway. And just like I mentioned before, he took our money and we never saw him again. And if you're a knower, which if you are, you probably already know that you are. But if you are, this is probably one of the biggest struggles that you have, is actually trusting what you hear, what you know to be true, trusting it that it's the truth and that you should follow it. Today, we're doing a deep dive into your gift, and I need you to hear this right up front. You are not stubborn. You're not a know-it-all. You're not a person who thinks they're always right. You're prophetic. And today, I'm going to help you work through how to steward that gift. So first things first, how do you know if you're a knower? Okay, well, it usually shows up like, well, I just know things. And when people ask you, well, how do you know that? You can't really answer them. You just know that you do. You're usually interrupted by divine thoughts, like out of nowhere. You could be driving down the road and boom, download. You don't have to be doing anything spiritual. You don't have to be in worship. Like it just is like this instant download of like, oh man, I know this. God communicates to you through this really strong sense of knowing. You're not feeling things because feelers will feel. And you're not necessarily hearing things because hearers hear. And you're not necessarily getting a vision or a picture because that's a seer. You're just out of nowhere. You don't know how to explain it. You have no premise for it. You have no logical reasoning. You just know. It's a direct download straight into your spirit. You have this ability to discern outcomes before they even happen. Something like a job opportunity, or you immediately, or some, like if it's just a job opportunity, you immediately know whether you should take it or not. If you're hiring someone, you immediately know whether they're a good candidate or not. Maybe you're meeting someone for the first time and there's just something in you that's just like, they are not trustworthy. Do not invite them in your inner circle. You may be presented with a decision that needs to be made, and you know which direction to go, even when evidence points to other things, like you just know the right direction, the right path to take. Something very interesting about knowers is that they typically don't use phrases like, well, God said, or I feel like. Those phrases don't typically come natural to you. Instead, you may say something like, well, I sense that we should do this, or my strong sense is, or I just know this is the right direction. You might not even mention God when you share what it is that you know. You'll say, we should go left instead of right. Or you're not going to say something like, well, God told me that we should go left. You're just going to know, like, no, we should go left. And that can make you seem less spiritual to other people. But here's what they don't understand. That is God speaking to you. The frustration comes when people ask, well, how do you know that? And you cannot give them an answer. You just know. Let me ask you this. How many times have you known something and then was right about it? And now, how many times have you ignored what you knew and then deeply regretted it? If you're not in your head right now, then you're probably a knower, and it's time to start learning how to steward your gift. Now, let me tell you something right now that's going to probably set you free. This is an actual spiritual gift. This isn't you being presumptuous. This isn't you thinking too highly of yourself. This is actually how God designed you to receive from him. We can see Paul in Acts where he would know which cities to go to and which ones to avoid. It was because he was prompted by the Holy Spirit. He knew. He had this knowing. Which cities do I avoid? Which cities do I go to next? Here's why knowers don't often feel spiritual enough. Because your gift doesn't look like what the church taught you prophecy looks like. You probably grew up watching prophecy in the church as people who are standing up and declaring, thus saith the Lord. Or they have these crazy tears running down their faces and they have elaborate visions. And you're just over here be knowing things. There's no drama, there's no tears, no vision board, just a quiet, strong, unshakable knowing. So you've told yourself, well, I'm not prophetic. I'm just really logical. I'm rational. I'm intuitive. I'm practical. No, just stop it. Because your intuition, that is the Holy Spirit. Your gut feeling, that is God speaking. That knowing that you can't explain, that's prophecy. It just didn't look the way you expected it to. And here's the beautiful part about your gift. Once you encounter God's truth about whatever, there's very little that can stop you. This is your strength. When you know you have the staying power, you have longevity, you're not swayed by circumstances or opposition from others. You're not moved by trends or popular opinion or even pressure. You know what you know and you stand on it. So let's talk about your superpowers, because as a knower, you have some serious strengths. First, you're able to push through obvious barriers when everyone else is paralyzed. When everyone else is scared or overthinking, you're the one who's moving forward because you know. You're not being reckless, you're being obedient, and there's a big difference there. Second, you're commonly right about how things are going to turn out. And this helps to build confidence over time. You start tracking it. It's like, I knew that hire was going to be a problem, or I knew that investment was going to fall through. Let me give you an example of my own life. Some of you may know that, my husband and I are senior leaders at our local church. We're pastors. And a few years in, we were having this experience where people were coming to tell us things like, one camp would come tell us this thing, and one camp would come tell us this thing. And there was just something going on that I'm just like, this is so confusing. And of course, you're trying to get to the bottom of it. You're trying to figure it out because, it was negative stuff. Like it was coming after us kind of deal. And you want to kind of squash the whole gossip thing. But at the same time, it's like, this is a brewing problem that we have to mitigate somehow. And it was just so incredibly confusing because the things just weren't adding up. And it was causing us to be like, I don't know who to trust. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't have a good, clear sense of what's really going on here. And so one day I was actually driving home and I had stopped at this red light, and then just boom, I had a download. Like, I can't even explain. Like, it was just this massive download of information that was just in detail of what was going on behind the scenes. What was the baseline situation of what was really happening here? So I called my husband up and I was like, hey, I just got a download. This is what's going on. This person is doing this and this person is doing that. And this is what's really the truth. This is what's really happening here. He's like, okay, we're going to sit on it for a second. I'm telling you, within a couple of days, maybe not even that long, but very quickly thereafter, everything that I had shared with him, everything that I had gotten in that download, it was 100% spot on as to what was really happening and what the truth was. As a knower, you'll get these downloads and you're usually right. I often tell my husband that, look, I don't think I'm right all the time. I just happen to be so. And it's just because I'm a strong knower. But as a knower, who's usually right, it also can build some frustration because not everybody wants to listen to you and not everybody believes you. It's not that they think you're lying. It's just that they don't have the proof for themselves. You know, that's great, but I don't know. And so therefore, I don't know if I want to trust you as my Holy Spirit. I want to trust the Holy Spirit in me, but I don't know yet. Oftentimes, others need just a little bit more time to catch up, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But thirdly, one of your superpowers is that once you've encountered the truth about something, nobody can talk you out of it. You have this unwavering confidence, this unwavering faith, this staying power. When you know God has said something, you're not moved. You're not moved by circumstances, not by opposition, not by people telling you you're wrong. It makes you a really powerful force for the kingdom. because you don't quit, you don't back down, and you don't compromise. But now let's talk about a few of the weaknesses of a knower, because every gift has a weakness. And if you're going to steward your gift well, you need to know what your pitfalls are. Firstly, you may struggle to value others who hear differently than you. When you know, it's often hard to understand why other people need more time to process. If they need more feelings or if they need more confirmation, it can become frustrating with you because you know, so let's just go. Let's do, because I know. The danger here is that as a knower, we can have a tendency to steamroll people. We can make decisions without bringing them along. We can move so fast that our spouse, our team, our friends, they don't have an opportunity to catch up. I've done this. I have known something so strongly before, and I've moved forward without consulting with anyone or giving anyone time to catch up to me, and I've moved forward. Now, what I knew was right, and it proved out to be right, but when I turned around and was looking for my team, they weren't there. Instead, they were hurt, they were confused, they were disappointed. They felt like I didn't value them enough. I didn't value their opinion or value what God's telling them. And so I just steamrolled right over them. And I learned that that's not leadership. That was just being a bulldozer. I was right. And the direction I was going to was the right direction to take, but I did it in the incorrect approach. I didn't have my team coming with me, which brings me to the second weakness. We have a tendency to overvalue our knowing and leave others behind. Often as a knower, we have this Lone Ranger mentality of, well, I'll just do it myself. And I am the world's worst about this. I'm a horrible delegator. It's not that I love teaching, right? I'm on here talking to you. I love teaching, but I also hate delegation because I hate training and taking the time to train. It's like, I know what needs to be done. I'm going to go do what needs to be done. Stay out of my way. I'll just go do it myself. And as a knower, a lot of times we do that. A lot of times we think, well, I'll just do it myself and nobody else gets it anyway. But the problem with that is that we end up leaving everybody behind. And the hard truth is that it sometimes backfires. Not because we were wrong about what we knew, but because we're out there all by ourselves when really, especially like in ministry or leadership or church leadership, or even your team at work or even your family, like you want to go in this direction, but you want them to come with you. But if you don't give them a chance to catch up to you or to sit and process the way they process, we'll just run off and leave them. And then we're out there by ourselves, and that's no fun. And so it kind of backfires on us. Knowing is a gift, but relationships matter too. And sometimes we have to slow our knowing down in order to honor the people around us. And the third weakness, and this is a big one, it's when God changes direction on us. We can get so stuck in what we knew that we miss what he's doing now. What was true in one season may not be true in this one or the next one. God can speak to you through the sense of knowing, and you're going that direction, and then he can shift. But if we're not staying in tune with him, if we're not staying in connection and communication with him, we can miss it. We can be operating off of the old information, the old knowing. We can hold on to that so strong, like a life or death grip on it, that we're not going back and saying, oh, wait, is this still right? Is this the same direction? Is this still the right direction? Or is there something else that I'm missing here? Have we shifted? Is this still the right path? As a knower, we have a tendency to no, I know, and this is what we're going to do, and we're not going to deviate from it. But then we can miss what's happening in the present. And there may be a little bit of stubbornness there. It can come from, but I know that I heard God about this. But the question you have to ask yourself is that are you standing firm in your faith, or are you being resistant to new direction? So how do you know the difference? Well, one of the things I've learned is that faith moves forward in peace. Stubbornness moves forward in striving, force, and increasing frustration. If you're having to force it, that's a red flag. So go check in with God and make sure things are still on course. Okay, so let's get real for a minute about what this gift costs you relationally. If you're married and your spouse isn't a knower, this can create some tension. You may know you're supposed to make a move, like either change jobs, sell your house, have another kid, whatever it is. And they just need more time. They don't know that. And so they need more time. They need to be able to process it in their way. They need time to go pray about it and figure it out for themselves. And you're sitting over here like, I already know. You're wasting time. Like, I already know this is what we're supposed to do, so let's go do that. And they just need a little bit more time. And this can be difficult because it looks like you're trying to be controlling. You're not trying to be controlling. You're trying to be obedient, but it can come off as controlling to your spouse. Or in your friendships, if you know your friend is making a mistake, you can see it clearly because you're looking at it objectively and you know. And so you tell them, but then they ignore what you say. They don't listen to it and they do whatever they're going to do anyway. And then you have to decide, like, am I going to tell them I told you so? Am I going to tell them, like, my knowing was right all along? We have to ask ourselves, well, how do I love them well, even though my knowing was right and they disobeyed my instruction, or they did whatever they were going to do anyway. And if they'd just listened to me, I could have saved them a whole lot of heartache. Now, how do I love them well? Or in business or ministry or any kind of leadership team, you know the direction that needs to be taken, but you can't articulate why. But you know, and you're surrounded with people who need data, reports. They need to have a logical progression, and you just can't give it to them. So you're either forced to come up with some logical explanation for something that you just know, or you're just completely dismissed as not being strategic enough. There is a real loneliness to knowing when no one else sees what you are able to see, when no one else knows what you're able to know. You can feel isolated. You feel misunderstood. You may get called controlling or stubborn or closed-minded, when actually you're just trying to be obedient. And sometimes you may even stop sharing what you know because the people around you don't receive it. And if any of that is you, your gift of knowing is not the problem. And other people's inability to receive it, it doesn't diminish its value. So now, let's talk about how to grow in your gift. First, I want you to build your history with God. Start documenting what you know. Get a journal, a notebook, doesn't have to be anything fancy. And just every time you have a knowing about something, write it down, put a date on it, write what you know, write why it was important, and then come back when it's been proven true. Here's what's going to happen. 2 things. First, it's going to build evidence for yourself, so that when you start doubting your gift, you can go back to this journal, you can flip back through the pages, and you can see, oh, wow, I've been right about this over and over and over and over again. This is God speaking. So second, it also builds evidence for others. See, when people start to question you, they might need more than just, I just know. So you can say, well, let me show you my track record. This is what I knew 6 months ago. This is what I knew a year ago. This is what I knew 5 years ago. And here's how it all proved to be true. Over time, people will learn to trust your knowing. You'll also start to see patterns. You'll start recognizing the difference between your flesh and God's spirit. You'll notice that when you're operating from fear versus when you're operating from genuine knowing. Second, I want you to learn how to articulate what it is that you're sensing. And this is going to be hard probably, but it's essential if you want people to start receiving what it is that you know. For example, use language other people can understand. Instead of just saying, this is what we need to do, you can start saying words like, this is what I sense the Lord's leading us to do. This is what I have a strong sense, or I believe the direction is ... For people who need more logical reasoning, and a lot of them do, frame it as wisdom or a pattern of recognition. Give them the conclusion and a logical path, even if that logical path isn't how you came to the conclusion. You knew, you had a knowing, that's how you got there. But now, I'm not saying go make something up and lie. What I'm saying is you can reverse engineer it a little bit of like, okay, I know this is what we need to do, but word it in a way that is showing wisdom, such as like, I sense this is the direction that we need to take. Okay? You may not know why that's the direction that you need to take, but you can at least explore it, sit on it for a day or two, or even a week, and like ask God to give you some more information. Start noticing patterns of like, okay, how I know this is the direction we need to take. I don't know why it's the direction we need to take, but there is a logical pattern there somewhere, and start reverse engineering back to that. For example, you're hiring someone, right? So you're doing interviews and your gut is telling you, do not hire that person. Like, they are going to be bad for the business. They're going to be bad for the ministry. They're going to bring all kinds of chaos and havoc. Do not hire them. Just don't do it. You don't have really a logical reason. Like, you just know it, but you can start, if you know that, then you can start looking back. Okay, in the interview process, how did they answer this question or that question? What was their body language like? So that when you then present it to your team of like, based on the pattern I'm seeing and how they responded in some of the interview questions, I'm really sensing that they're not going to be a good fit. So you see how that works there? You gave them this logical path, even though your knowing didn't come from the logical path. You knew first, but then you can start, because you can start reverse engineering your way back to then support why you know. Now, if you don't have that opportunity to reverse your way back, say you have a completely different scenario and there's not really any logical evidence at all to pull from, you just know, start wording it differently. Of like, I have this really strong sense that this is the direction we should take, or this is not the direction we should take. And just be honest. I don't have any logical explanation or reasoning for it. It's just a really, really strong sense that I'm feeling, or that, well, you wouldn't say feeling, but like, it's just this really strong sense that this is a bad idea. Or this is a really strong sense that this is the direction we need to go. Don't lie. Be honest. But then when you start seeing things that you can reverse engineer. A lot of times there's clues, and as a knower, you will pick up on things that other people won't pick up on. Maybe not emotions or feelings, but you'll hear things that people don't say. I am a really strong knower, and I hear things don't say all the time. Not that I'm filling in things or making it up as I go, or, I'm not hearing voices in my head, and, I'm not saying I'm loony, or, well, that's debatable. But either way, my point is that when people tell me something, I'm watching their body language. I'm watching how they hold their eyes. I'm watching how they hold their hands, what they do, what they say. I'm listening to everything they're saying and everything they're not. And if you're a knower, you're probably doing that too. You're just probably not aware that you've been doing it. You've just been doing it subconsciously. So as a strong knower, start paying attention to this skill set, if you will. Start paying attention to this. This is still Holy Spirit talking, like, pay attention to this, pay attention to that. You're going to know something, and it's not always true. Like I said, I was driving down the road one day, and boom, I had this download. Had no evidence for that download whatsoever. But a lot of times in certain situations, like a job interview, for instance, there'll probably be clues that you pick up on that you don't realize you're picking up on. And you can reverse engineer things back. Now, that's not to say that you can do that all the time, but a lot of times it's there if you look for it. So practice before you go into a meeting or before you have a conversation with people, and take your knowing language and try to word it in a way, translate it in a way that they can understand. It will feel foreign at first, and you'll probably do it poorly because it doesn't come naturally, but you can get better at it. Here's a couple of examples of how you can do this. For instance, for your spouse, you could say, I know I can't fully explain this, but I have a really strong sense we're supposed to do X, Y, Z. Can we maybe sit together with this for a minute to see if you get any kind of confirmation? Maybe for your team, you could say, I don't have all the data yet, but my gut is telling me that we should go in this particular direction. Let me work backwards to see if I can make some logic out of it, but I wanted to share with you what I was sensing first. See how that works? You're not just hitting them over the head with, but I know. You're actually trying to translate your words into something they can understand. Thirdly, I want you to stop believing the lie that your gift is not spiritual. Your gift is just as spiritual as the one who stands up and says, "Thus saith the Lord." or the person who is crying with tears running down their face. Listen, God designed you to receive information in a particular way. It's not less than, it's not inferior, and it's not just your intuition. It's the Holy Spirit communicating to you in your language. You don't need to manufacture feelings. You don't need to force yourself to hear audible voices. You don't need to have any kind of dramatic visions to be prophetic. You can just sit over here and be knowing stuff. The fourth thing I want you to do is actually build in some checkpoints. Now, this doesn't mean to not trust your knowing. However, wisdom asks for confirmation, especially on major decisions. This isn't a lack of faith. It's an act of humility, because you need to create a space that says, God, show me if I'm missing something. Confirm this for me. And if I'm off base, redirect me. And if there's doubt, like genuine doubt, not just fear, don't move yet. Wait for some clarity. So how do you tell the difference between doubt and just not yet? Well, doubt usually feels like anxiety, confusion, second guessing yourself. It's chaotic. Genuine not yet actually feels more like a caution light, like a yellow light. It's not a no, it's just wait, hold on for a second. It's peaceful, but yet it's still clear. And when you're dealing with something that is a major decision, like that ones that affect other people, like your family, your team, or your church, honor them by building in some time for confirmation. You might know immediately what to do, but give God time to speak to them too. And fifthly, honor the process in others. Just because you know immediately doesn't mean that others should. And I know this can be hard for you, but it is essential. Give other people time to catch up to what you already know. You can, instead of just declaring things, you can ask them, like, what do you sense about this? And where do you think we should go? And what is your gut telling you? What is God telling you? What do you feel? Let them process, let them feel, let them hear, let them see, and don't rush them just because you are already at the finish line. Practice some patience. I know, patience is not our strong suit as knowers, but relationships are more important than speed. Now, if you're not a knower, but you love someone who is, you're probably married to a knower. If you may work with a knower, your best friend may be a knower. Let me give you a little bit of coaching on how to relate to them. First of all, quit asking them to explain. They don't have it. They've already said pretty much all that they have. They most likely can't break it down into logical steps. They can't give you any further information. They just know. And usually what they've already shared is all they have. And when you keep asking, but how do you know? We're actually not helping. We're just making them feel inadequate. Second, don't demand questions like, well, did God tell you that? Or are you sure that's God? That's not helpful. If they're sharing it with you, they probably believe that it's God. Questioning them only creates doubt and frustration. Thirdly, value their strong sense, even when you don't understand it. You don't have to understand their knowing in order to honor it. Fourth, ask good questions, such as like, instead of asking, well, how do you know? Ask them, well, what do you think we should do? Or do you have a sense of direction that we should take? And fifth, track their accuracy over time. Start noticing when they're right, because they usually are. And once you start seeing a pattern, you'll actually start trusting their knowing even when you don't understand it. All right, so here's something really practical that you can practice. I'll give you this tool. I want you to get a journal, and at the top of each entry, I want you to answer these 4 questions. What I know. Write exactly what you know. Be specific. I know we're supposed to hire person A, not person B. I know this deal is going to fall through. I know we're supposed to move in June, whatever it is. And then I want you to write when you knew it. Date it. Timestamp it if you want. This is important because you'll come back to this. Then write down what action I'm taking. Are you moving forward? Are you waiting for more confirmation? Are you sharing this with anyone? Write your action step. And then follow up. Come back later and mark, was I right? What happened? Or what did I learn? This journaling, it actually becomes your evidence file. It builds your confidence, and it gives you a track record. It gives you documentation. Now, let me quickly go over a couple of red flags. How do you know if you're operating in your flesh instead of the spirit? Well, you can ask yourself these questions. Am I willing to be wrong? And if you can't even consider the idea that you might be wrong in something, that's probably your ego, not God. Am I open to God changing direction? Or am I so locked in to what I knew 6 months ago that I'm not listening for any new direction? Am I honoring others in the process, or am I completely steamrolling over everyone because I know and they don't? If you answer these questions and you realize that you've been in your flesh, it's okay. It's okay, I promise. No condemnation. You just need to recalibrate and get back to your identity, and then ask God to confirm or correct. Here's a practical tool that you can apply. Give it 48 hours. 48 hours. For any kind of major decisions, when you know something and it is a big decision, just give it 48 hours. The world is not going to fall apart in 48 hours. And if you feel pressure to have to make a decision in the next 48 hours, then the answer probably should be no. And it's not because you don't trust your knowing, it's because you're giving space for God to confirm, for others to catch up, and for peace to settle. 48 hours, if you still feel the same way and you have clarity, then move forward. But that 48 hours, it actually protects you from impulsive decisions made in reaction instead of knowing made in the spirit. And here's one last thing. How do you handle when you were wrong? Because it does happen. We are not infallible as knowers. Here's what you do. You own it quickly. And I mean quickly. You say, I was wrong. I thought I knew, but I was way off base. I apologize. Don't make excuses. Don't defend yourself. Just own it. When that happens, just go back to God and say, God, help me to discern better. Show me where I got confused. What was my flesh? What was my fear? What was the truth? Was that my own desire masquerading around as knowing? Then learn from it and move forward. All right, my friend, your challenge this week is to get your journal out, grab a notebook, write down one thing you currently know. Even if you can't explain it, just follow the question protocol that I gave you earlier, and then practice articulating it. How would you explain this to your spouse, like to your team or to a friend who needs some logical explanation? And here's some reflection questions for you. When have I ignored my knowing and regretted it? And what would change if I started trusting this gift? I want you to sit with that, journal about it, ask God to show you where you've been dismissing your own gift. Next episode, we're diving deep into the feeler, and you don't want to miss it. Make sure you're subscribed, that you hit the like button, and that you hit the bell icon. That way you're notified when the next episode is uploaded and you don't want to miss it. Before we go, let me say this one more time. You're not stubborn. You're not a know-it-all. You're not controlling. You're a knower. And the world needs to know what you know. I hope you have a great day. And until then, I'll see you next time.